Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2023 verdict. Guess what? All eyes may just be on Nigeria this week because it is indeed the big week.
Indeed.
Welcome. I'm Chamberlain of Saul.
Good morning and welcome to the program. It's the week 2 D-Day.
Yeah.
I'm Malpo Ogun Yusuf.
Indeed, the week is upon us. Well, it's good to be back after the break, no pun intended. Welcome to the show. I'm Kayode Nkikili here in Lagos.
Well, it's such a great time to be back, Kayode. You're most welcome back.
Absolutely.
And it's so good to have you here. Well, it's the 20th day in the month of February 2023. Welcome to the program. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Okay, Mr. Countdown, we hear you loud and clear, but we also like to remind everyone that not that you don't know, but you can always get across to us. Take advantage of any of our social media handles because they are there, very much available to all of you. Hashtag 2023 verdict, 2023 verdict at channelstv.com. And of course, you can always make use of that Sunrise Daily at channelstv.com because we are also keeping an eye on all of them for you. And speaking about the big week, take a look at that. The countdown to the election to D-Day is on, and 5 days right there, 5 days to go. And goodness me, why does it look as if people are not sure what's going to happen?
Well, you can't blame anyone, but I don't know. I have who's been posed. I got the shivers. I can't wait, to be honest. I really just can't wait. On behalf of INEC, it's not like I work there, but I mean, I know that right now there will be a bit of anxiety, a bit of counting down. Are we sure? Last-minute checks, logistics, is everything, in place? I'm sure they will have a checklist and they'll be ticking their boxes to be sure because the whole country is looking at them this minute to be sure that, they will keep their word. Come the 25th, we are all going out to cast the vote for the person who would like to be president.
Absolutely. And you know what? Whatever you watch, whatever you do, make sure that you keep tabs on what will serve you in the morning because you get that opportunity to get your feel and get up to date with whatever is playing out there. For instance, this week is indeed packed. There's a lot of activity happening and will happen this week. On the news today bit, for instance, who would have thought? Today is the time when in Akwa Ibom State, they take their battle to the court. The People's Democratic Party will be hoping, they will be looking to see how the court will resolve their matter. Now, if you had followed that for a while, you may remember that there was this Court of Appeal decision that was delivered on the 20th of January. The Federal High Court, they gave a judgment declaring Enyong as the candidate of the PDP in that Akwa Ibom State governorship race. So the PDP appealed that matter. Part of their prayers was that this matter is statute barred. It was part of the prayers, actually. So they want to get that ticket back to the man who they think will clinch the ticket, the pastor. You may know him.
Okay, so we'll keep our eyes on the Court of Appeal today. And you also know that is the week where we might begin to see a rearrangement of alliances. So look at this one. ADC is to organize a presidential endorsement conference. Who are they going to be endorsing? Is it their own presidential candidate or is it the presidential candidate of another party? Well, keep your eyes fixed here. We certainly will have updates for you as the week progresses. Well, as the day progresses.
That just reminded me of the mergers and acquisitions with the banks some years ago.
Absolutely. But we saw this coming, actually.
Well, of course, definitely. But as some people say, the political transfer window is closing.
Is it closing? Up until the last minute, you're not sure what.
Well, one other thing that will be happening in the news today is the Permanent Secretary of Federal Ministry of Education will be monitoring JAM registration. I mean, it's very interesting that that is happening, especially at a time like this when students are said to be at home, according to the instruction of the Federal Minister of Education. But then,
the good thing is these ones are not in tertiary institutions yet, so
exactly.
they're still at home. you know, so I mean, that shouldn't affect them anyway.
Their own transfer window hasn't closed.
No, it shouldn't close. You don't want it to close for them. Well, also today, while we pay attention to all of the issues going around, I mean, education is very important.
Absolutely.
We want to know that the National Orientation Agency and CISLAC will be holding a press briefing. I know that they had this sort of partnership, rather, last year, where it was about, you know, voting, vote buying, and all of that. So in the build-up to the elections, you would expect that some of these events will take place to help Nigerians understand. Because the NOA, there have been questions asked of the NOA.
High expectations of the NOA.
Exactly.
Especially in all the issues that are happening, you know, appealing to people to be calm, concerning the fuel scarcity, naira scarcity, and now the elections are building up and all kinds of things are happening. No one has been speaking or appealing to people. So maybe that's what this is about.
I mean, lot of job for the NOA, really. And perhaps it's also important to raise that question of funding for them. But that's something to look forward to today. The National Orientation Agency and CISLAC to hold a press briefing.
Yes, indeed. And then back in Abuja, there is this group, they call it the Project 774. It's headed by Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi. They say that they will go all out to ensure they mobilize votes for Tinubu Shetima in 774 local government areas of this country. So they are taking it to the grassroots. According to them, they like to build from bottom up and see how that plays out. What a fit that would be if it happens.
How much time do they have left? I mean, it's just 4 days to or 5 days to the polls. Well, 4 days to campaigns finally closing, because a day before the polls, 24 hours before the polls, there will be no campaigns. In fact, insignias of political parties will not be allowed on the airwaves. So it'll be interesting to see just how they intend to go about that, if they haven't gone about it yet. Well, we also know that our observer groups are already in Nigeria. As Chamberlain said, all eyes are on Nigeria, but some people are not observing from afar. They're right here in the country. The Commonwealth Observer Group, led by former South African President Thabo Mbeki, will be holding a briefing today, and we certainly will be bringing to you what it is that they have in store, or what it is that they have observed so far. Because some people think elections are just on elections day, but there are a lot of processes leading up to the elections themselves, which the observer groups will be also looking out for, and that's why they come in quite early. So look out for that briefing today, led by former South African President Thabo Mbeki.
But I'm not sure you'll be willing to wait for any further briefing about this Naira swap matter. People just want to know, where do we go from here, especially those scenarios that played out last week. The governor of Kaduna State, several governors also joining the suits, challenging the decision of the president. But that said, we'll see how that plays out here today. But let's jump right ahead and take you through some of the dailies this morning. Take a look at leadership today. Naira swap policy, that is a theme for leadership. The front page of Leadership newspaper this morning. APC governors adamant, ask PNB, AGF, CBN to obey Supreme Court. That's almost point blank. They had that meeting yesterday, and so they didn't mince words. I might add, owing to this headline, as you see here. And so it is the big one on the front page of Leadership here this morning. Meet with Tinubu Adamu at party's national secretariat. That's the first of the riders. PNB, in the video, vows to end current hardship. Kaduna government places security on high alert. 3 killed over rejection of old Naira notes in Akwa Ibom. So this is a thing that's been happening in different parts of the country. And guess what? You may just know that, as some of the governors did say, it's still legal tender in their states. And you know what? It is indeed so, because when you hit the streets, some of the streets of those states, you're spending it freely. Freer than you are now here in Abuja, for those in Abuja, which only makes you wonder if wishes were horses, beggars might draw, even if you have your money. You never know, but
well, Abuja, you guys are very close to the to the headquarters of the central bank, so you should be getting these new notes before everybody else gets them. It should have percolated here properly.
So, Mr.
Saturated
CBN,
the market, perhaps.
CBN, you heard? Do the, what's that word? Needful. As they always say, whatever
that cliche has gotten many in trouble.
Oh dear. And then we have no preferred candidates. ACF, NEF, NEF declare. So all of those you see right there on the front page. And so there's several scenarios playing out on the front page here, which you may want to go ahead and check that out yourself. But I know about elections still. 2023, don't disappoint Nigerians. Editors charge INEC security agency. So they heard you last week, and so they're extending that plea, also asking INEC, don't do this. Just go ahead. You've got this, INEC. Just do it.
We're rooting for you, INEC. We're rooting for you. Oh, well, Daily Trust is next up here. And look at this. They are looking at, factors that could affect the polls. And right there you say insecurity, credibility fears may affect voter turnout. Candidates eye Northwest's 22 million votes. Why previous elections recorded low turnouts, as according to experts. Security, others to determine turnout, as according to CDD. So you find details on page 4 of the paper. A very interesting analysis that Babajide Ogunsanwo was doing here yesterday for how presidents have won or emerged over the years. And he was talking about how presidents have had to win certain zones for them to emerge presidents.
At least 3. At
least 3 zones. Interestingly, my mind this time around, I'm thinking to myself that this time around, you might find that the presidential candidates are splitting zones. So you might find them picking states within certain zones. Whether that will come up to 2/3, only God knows. We'll see how that would happen for the elections this time around. But hey, we want the polls to happen on the 25th. Page 4 is where you find details. They have some infographics for you here. Kwankwanso to APC governors. Your loot now completely useless.
Ouch. Shots fired.
That's what he said. And look at this cash crisis. Buhari urges patience, reaffirms support for Tinubu. It's on page 13 of the paper. Daily Trust economists. Credible elections will boost confidence in economy. So INEC, a lot, well, it's not just INEC, it's all of us, to be honest. It's all of us. We all have a duty to ensure that INEC does the proper thing, that all the other, security agencies, every stakeholder involved in this election does the proper thing. I mean, we are all Nigerians. If we desire to see proper elections, then we have a duty to behave properly, whatever our roles will be on that day. We have a number of other stories for you. They have some sort of analysis race to Aso Rock. Atiku, 6-time lucky or last rodeo? The question on the front page of Daily Trust. Let's leave it there for the paper.
Well, take a look at the Guardian newspaper next. I think it's instructive, really, when they say race to the Aso Rock. I mean, it's a rock you're about to climb, really. So I don't think it's just to go there and lounge. It's a lot of work, tough job.
Wait a minute. Did I see the word rodeo?
Well,
to the rock?
Heard and saw it, so that's some sort of confirmation. The Guardian leads with this one. Tinubu APC governors beg Buhari Malami to respect Supreme Court.
Interesting choice of word.
Yeah.
Beg.
Who would have thought? I know some people pride themselves in predicting kind of headlines you'd see in Nigeria, but tell me this, did you ever see this kind of headline coming? Days to elections, that is. But a host of riders, 6 of them, from Addis Ababa, Buhari calls for patience over Naira hardship. We saw a picture of the president actually planting a tree on behalf of Nigeria on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. Very interesting one there. The president was actually watering that tree on behalf of the whole 200 million Nigerians. A couple of other riders. Banks not ready for 200 Naira payment as cash squeeze enters 4th week. It reminds you of that saying that the love of money is a root of evil. So is this, a confirmation of that, because this cash squeeze is causing lots of headache for
this one, is it the love for money or the need for money?
Potato. Well, there's a picture on the front page that I think shows the build-up to the election. You can see core members actually going through pre-election training. There was lots of that over the weekend. So I mean, we talk about INEC, but these are the people that will actually do the work that will ensure we have a credible, a successful election or otherwise. So I think it's important to also pay attention to them. I'll just mention this one under the big picture. Atiku, Tinubu, Obi in last push to sway voters. You know, I'm just curious. Let us know. Have you decided on who to vote for yet? I know there's this research that's gone back and forth about when exactly people decide on who to vote for. Hey, don't tell us who you're voting for. Just let us know how you decided, when you decided, and if you've decided just yet. Some people decide on the day before the election, so clearly this is going to be an interesting one. Let's leave it there for The Guardian.
Like it or not, some people will tell you either way.
Well, I wouldn't tell you.
On that same, the last headline that you looked at, that's what leads the front page of this Nigeria newspaper today. And what do you have? Tinubu, Atiku, Obi plot final strategies as Nigerians count down to decisive polls. APC convenes strategy meeting. Endorsements for PDP candidates, high note campaign for LP, 400 billion naira. EFCC denies raiding Tinubu's house. And guess what? We're ready for Saturday's poll, says INEC. I'm looking forward to that headline that says, we're ready for Saturday polls, says Nigerians. Yeah, but I don't know. I guess I'll wait to see that one. Right back.
I'm ready. Hey, I don't know about you. Let us know.
Journalist.
Been ready since like 4 years ago.
Uncollected PVCs. 4.17 million voters disenfranchised in 10 states. That story is on page 15. Find the details on that page. And at the bottom of the page, pains worsen as Naira scarcity continues in states. NMA, others lament. Adamu, APC, NWC back governors against Buhari. Find that story on page 4 of this Nigeria newspaper today.
All right, take a look at Vanguard newspaper next. Old notes. Confusion as banks carry out CBN directive. Open branches weekend. Expect clearer directive today. POS operators ignore CBN warning on selling banknotes. Experts hold divergent views on implementation impact. Of course, you will always have divergent views, even on matters of law that is supposed to be clear and straightforward. You have lawyers who are always on opposing sides most times. Even in judgments delivered in courts, you have majority and minority judgments. So nothing wrong with that. That's democracy. Ideas contending, and you know how to say that. And then look at what is beneath that one. Naira swap. APC urges FG CBN to obey Supreme Court order, seeks Buhari's intervention. As Ganduje, 6 APC governors boycott meeting with Adamu, Tinubu, El Rufai, others engage NWC as party chair cautions governors against inflammatory public utterances. But don't forget that you need to watch what you say, because there are people who are watching you. State security, for instance, they've invited some people some time ago. So just so you know, in case you want to take away your eye on that one. But I know it's election period. Don't forget, you can flip to the back page of Vanguard as well. They've got some football stories. I know the under 2023 began on a losing note, but we're hoping that elections will be on a winning note for you in terms of you performing your civic responsibility. Now, I don't know who your candidate is, but just perform that duty. That's all that is required of you at this point in time. That's Vanguard this morning.
Well, the Abuja Inquirer, keeping tab on the city of Abuja, is what I'm looking at for you now. APC in crisis meeting backs governors on Naira redesign case against federal government. Fears of cash scarcity affecting INEC logistics. Okay, this is news to me because we do remember that meeting that the INEC chairman had with the CBN governor, and the CBN governor promised that if INEC needed cash, they will make the cash available. So this But anyway, it says it's fears. So I don't know why they're still exercising any fear. Fears of cash scarcity affecting INEC logistics. Well, I just hope it remains just that, fears, not that is the real thing. New Naira, FCT lawyers face frustration filing proceedings. So even the courts don't seem to be obeying what the Supreme Court is saying. You find details on page 3 of, don't they take transfer in the courts? They should do transfer. Page 3 is where you find details. Buhari to Nigerians, be patient. I'll end hardship soon. That's what the president says. So be patient. Let's leave it there for the Abuja Inquirer.
And pick up a copy of the Nigerian Tribune with this big one. A Naira swap policy, APC NWC governors ask Malami to prevail on CBN. Want it to comply with Supreme Court order. 10 governors, 2 deputies in closed-door meeting. I mean, that's something we've seen consistently across board. In fact, that picture on the front page speaks to the meeting. What will come out of it? Well, the president put out a video already. Call it a re-endorsement or an endorsement of the APC presidential candidate. So is that all? Is there anything to expect? More importantly, we need one Nigeria, I mean a safe nation, to ensure this conduct or this election goes.
The question you didn't want to ask about that address that you said, was that the president or the leader of his party?
Both, actually, because he spoke to Nigerians,
okay,
and then he endorsed his candidates. A couple of other stories, but I'll just take this one. Election Tech Group faults Osun Tribunal judgment validates BVAS reliability. You know what played out in Osun? I know people have tried to be quiet about it so it doesn't affect the perception of the coming elections and all of that, but it is still a big one, and I'm not sure it's been addressed appropriately. So, well, I hope we've learned the lessons. I'll just leave it at that for the Nigerian Tribune.
Nigerian News Direct is talking about that same meeting. APC governors meet party chairman, demand respect of Supreme Court order that's concerning the Naira scarcity. Directs call to Emefiele Malami. Tinubu storms meeting venue. Policy causing tremendous difficulties to Nigeria and national economy. That's ascribed to the chairman, national chairman of the party. Stories on page 3 of the paper this morning, and a number of other riders. You do well to make a choice yourself of. Alleged 400 billion naira new notes hoarding. No raid at Tinubu's private residence, ascribed to the EFCC, and a number of other stories. Okay, there's this one. Protest Day 7. Over 120 anti-corruption CSOs gave IGP 7-day ultimatum to arrest jail EFCC boss. What does that mean?
You know, I'll pick a copy of that paper just to...
You know, there is this, court ruling or whatever it is at some point. Maybe that is what they're asking.
I thought that was vacated.
Well, I guess we'll wait to see. The story is on page 21 when you pick up the paper.
Where do these CSOs come from all of a sudden?
The details are in the paper.
All right, I'll leave it there.
That's the Nigerian News Direct today.
Well, take a look at New Telegraph next. APC crisis, cash crunch. Tinubu, PGF, NWC -7 governors meet. Ask CBN, AGF to obey Supreme Court order on currency swap. Call for president intervention on banknotes palaver. Buhari promises to end hardship. Settle out of court with governors. Umahi urges Buhari as Serap sues president. Yeah, Serap always reminds us of some of these things, I'll tell you. Well, look at the bottom strip. Polls, don't bow to pressure. Kegama tells INEC judiciary. It will be a big week for the judiciary when that judgment comes through, because whatever they decide, it will go a very long way. I can tell you that one. I mean, everybody already knows that. Presidential poll, Atiku, Tinubu, Obi, Kwankwaso, 14 others, battle ready. I guess you find out. But in the midst of all of this, there's this piece here. It may be almost insignificant, but it is very important. Regular sleep schedule may reduce heart disease risk, ascribed to some study on the front page here. So, there you go.
If you've ever had difficulty sleeping, you would know that that's a very important piece of news. And the much older you get, the more you realize that sleep is not to be taken for granted. Well, take a look at this from Daily Independent. Be patient. I know there's hardship. Buhari begs Nigerians. Asks parents to warn wards against trouble on election day. So the president is reiterating he feels our pain, or feels your pain, our pain. It's all our pain, you know. And he's asking us to be patient. Look at this. El Rufai asks MDAs to accept payments in old, new Naira notes. That is also there. And right on the side, they have a slew of stories for you. We didn't raid Tinubu's house. That's according to EFCC. It's another time where you have to double check stories. When you see a story, be sure and doubly sure before you confirm that that story is genuine, unless of course it's coming from a source like ours. We've done the checks for you. We would not put out a story which we haven't verified. So this is the season where, you know, a lot of stories will be flying around, but before you share, make sure that it is from a credible source, and make sure that you see it elsewhere in a number of other places, you know, or maybe even on the handle, the official handle of the agency before you go ahead and share. Look at this one now. Naira swap policy obeys Supreme Court order. APC, NWC. Governors urge Malami Emefiele. So you find that there, 2023 elections. Don't disappoint Nigerians. Nigerian Guild of Editors urges INEC, security agencies, asks journalists to be professional in coverage. Well, you bet that we have already taken that charge to heart. We'll leave it there, or almost. One more. South Africa begins issuance of 10-year visas to Nigerian investors, aviation practitioners. So some progress there in Nigerian-South African relations. 10-year visas for investors and aviation practitioners. Let's leave it there for Daily Independent newspapers.
Well, yes, indeed. So go ahead, take a look at our story of the day. The APC governors are digging their heels in. They are demanding that the CBN comply with court orders. So that meeting they had over the weekend. So it is a big story here today on the 2023 verdict. So just keep it locked here. We will be back and break it all down for you in just a moment. Stay with us. The presidential candidate of the new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, Mr. Robiu Kwankwaso, arrives at the venue of the University of Abuja Town Hall meeting, where students and management of staff of the university are set to engage the candidate on his manifesto. It's an intellectual engagement where the candidate is asked to share his blueprint on issues regarding security, education, youth inclusivity, and the economy.
A nation in which young people needs to have the feeling that they belong, but they have to struggle day and night. That is why this university, the UFA of Nigeria, asked politicians to come to campus and tell us, before we vote for you, what do you want to do? What are your plans?
Mr. Kwankwaso unveils his blueprints on several issues, including the economy, security, unemployment, and education.
We have decided, and is there in our blueprint, that we tackle the issue of insecurity. We are very angry that today, as we are sitting here, we have so many people, young men and women being kidnapped. We believe that we will not only get security with that, but we will give an opportunity for the young men and women to serve this country as members of the armed forces, members of the police, members of the DSS, and so on.
On whether or not he will accept the outcome of the forthcoming presidential election, the NNPP presidential candidate had this to say.
You see, I have no problem with accepting losing election. The best way to accept 2023 election is to address the right thing, free, fair, and of course, credible election.
The 2023 general elections will begin on February 25th with the presidential and National Assembly elections. This first tranche of the general elections will test most of the preparations the electoral umpire has put in place for the exercise.
Thank you for staying with us. Well, joining us to have a conversation around the campaigns of the NNPP is Ladipo Johnson, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, spokesperson, NNPP Kwakwaso presidential campaign. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. I haven't obtained the rank and title of Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
Apologies about that. Well, maybe you are some designating the spirit that we've not seen. But perhaps it also speaks to the expectations of your party. There are those who are saying, hey, what's the assurance that, the NNPP is even going to get anywhere near the top at all? And so if such words come, and when they come, and you have all been debunking it, but further confirmation?
Yes, I mean, as you said, we have spent a lot of time debunking, time that could have been spent delivering a message to the people. We've spent debunking rumors basically from two camps. That's the APC and the PDP, more so the PDP. You'll recall that recently Waziri Adamawa, the candidate of the PDP, even went as far as saying that he was talking to Peter Obi and Kwankwaso, and both candidates came out to deny it. That hasn't happened. Yesterday, people sent me messages that, by Wednesday, Kwankwaso will be stepping down for Atiku Abubakar. That is not the case. We said from ab initio, from the beginning of the campaign, that we're running this campaign to the end. We are very confident. We have a path to victory. There are different possible paths for different candidates. We know what we have. We know we've played to our strengths. We've concentrated on that. And the 25th is around the corner. So we repeat that we're contesting this election to the end. If, as INEC said that they're preparing for a runoff, if there is no winner at first ballot, then you all have to sit down. Then you will talk.
Then you will open the transfer window.
Yes, definitely. You'll do that.
Now,
but as it is, no.
Okay. Well, one of the issues that a number of people have also alleged, is that, look, for such an election as this, you need a lot of money to prosecute the election. So when your candidate, for instance, came out a few days ago to say, hey, now everyone is at the level playing ground, we are all the same, so to speak. Everyone is being impoverished by the policy of government. Is that a confirmation of what people said earlier, that now that there's a level playing field, everyone is the same?
You see, it's a balancing thing. Yes, he doesn't have the filthy, illicit money that it seems that others have.
How do you
I've used the phrase seems the illicit. If you have money, which people are saying that you've buried in different places, and you really, really want to spend that cash, then people should be worried about such people. They are the ones that should be worried about. I keep saying it, I've said it several times, we have had more than enough to prosecute the campaign in the manner that we have chosen to prosecute it. We've been able to go everywhere, we've been able to approach our people. And if we are not buying votes, then Nigerians should actually look at that and say, okay, maybe this person is serious about coming to serve. Because if you're coming to serve the people, would you be buying their votes? You won't be buying their votes. If you've been serving them, in quotes, for 7-8 years, you wouldn't have to buy their votes or induce them in any way. So it's not the politicians. It is the people of Nigeria, sorry, forgive my English, the people of Nigeria who have to be serious. And they have a few days to think about it and get it right.
Two issues.
Yes,
earlier on, you said that if there were to be some sort of runoff or a need for a runoff, then your candidate would sit down and have conversations and see maybe who to support or how to go about it. And I wonder...
Or who to accept.
Or who to accept.
Yes.
Whatever term. Yes. I know politicians like to... But they all mean the same thing at the end of the day.
Yes.
So has that always been like the plan B, the ultimate goal?
No, look, if you go into a cup final, definitely a manager that doesn't plan for a penalty shootout is not a good manager.
But you'll be
if you believe you win it during the 90 minutes, and you do not, and you have to go for extra time or for a penalty shootout, and you don't have the players to take the penalties, then you haven't done well.
Do you think
we have always known that with what we have on ground at the present moment, with the people who left the APC, people who left the PDP, like Kwankwaso, like Obi, the results wouldn't be the same as last time. It wouldn't be the same game. But the pundits just assume that, oh, this party has so many governors, this one has so many governors, it will be the same. Coupled with the economic situation and where we are at as a country at the moment, it won't be the same. It's not business as usual. So we are prepared for that.
It's interesting you use the analogy of football match.
Yeah.
I know there were matches over the weekend, so you're probably still fresh off that. But
no,
you know,
I've been campaigning. I can't.
Okay, that's understandable. But you know, for football, I mean, if there were to be penalty shootout, it's still the same team that will participate in penalty shootout. But for a runoff, it wouldn't be the same teams, in quote, that participated in the full 90 minutes that will go to that. And you said something instructive, that you will sit down and say, this is who to accept. So you are also confirming for a lot of people that talk about you not actually aiming to be winner of the selection or even the runner-up. So the goal is to sit down and see who to accept.
That is why I said to you, when you said who to join, I said who to accept.
Yeah.
Whom to accept. Accept means that we've come in first or second, and there's no outright winner.
No.
So that's what it meant. That was why I corrected you then.
I mean, you can't choose who to accept. People will vote for you.
Hang on.
Okay.
Let's not confuse things.
All right.
There is a runoff. Kwankwaso has come in first or second, and no outright winner, and there's a runoff. Then you have to accept, am I going to be partnering in this runoff with this and that party, with this and that person? That's what I meant. It's simple. You understand? We have always known that we could make it to the finish line if X equals whatever and Y equals whatever. However, if that doesn't happen, we are confident in the fact, and all the parties should know that now, that with Kwankwaso's strengths, the areas of strength from the northwest, the northeast and north central, he will definitely come in first.
Okay.
With the volume of votes I'm talking about.
Right.
You understand?
I mean,
so we are confident in what we're saying.
No one would expect anything less from you.
Naturally,
anyway,
they wouldn't.
To speak to that, but also the point you made about financing and your candidate saying to governors, especially in the APC, that their loot is now useless. I mean, it's out there, and I wonder. Let's break it down. You're a politician as well. Yes, you're professional in your field, but you're a politician. You understand how politics goes, how campaigns go. And I want to know, really, what do politicians need money for? Because I imagine you've had to spend money for lots of things. So aren't you spending money? How are you getting that money? Don't you have access to, considerable amount of funds? So it doesn't look like you're demonizing campaign spending.
No, we're not demonizing campaign spending. You spend, you do adverts, you spend logistics to move around, you spend money to put down structures. They hold meetings, they hire halls, they do all sorts of things. There's fuel scarcity to move them from Lagos to Ibadan alone. So you spend money on that. No one is saying that. What Nigerians are talking about, what people keep saying is wrong, is when you now have to give, or where you decide to start giving them rice, groundnut oil, this, and then of course raw cash, especially on election day or on a day to election. 5,000. The Yorubas, there was an election recently, they said, Diboko Sebe, vote and prepare a pot of soup.
That was in
Now,
APC.
yes.
Yeah.
So when you have that, it is something that should disgust the average Nigerian. So we know how it goes. And knowing how it goes,
your candidate has been in the APC. I mean, he's been a part of this.
If he, look, we're all in Nigeria. Are we all drug barons?
But he's particularly been in the APC. He's gone through the
been
process.
in the PDP.
So he's speaking from a place of knowledge.
Knowledge. I have been in both parties. We know what goes on. We know what is going on. But there's nothing wrong with trying to say that, no, we want to do things differently. And I was saying to someone in the car as we were coming, many of my friends have said, oh, join the winning party in Lagos, Ladipo. And I said, it's not about winning. It's about trying to change this country. So I know where to go to if I want to sleep at home and become a member of the House of Reps or House of Assembly in Lagos. I know where to go to. And I have many people in that house. But I will not join them. I keep telling them that posterity will not judge you well. So it's as simple as that. As difficult as it is to believe, there are people in this country who believe that this country can be good.
Will you be paying, in the light of the question Claudia asked you, would you be paying your party, what do you call them, at the polling units?
The agents?
Party agents?
Paying agents at the polling units is almost normal now. In any country, for instance, in the United States, in the democracy, they pay their canvassers. You understand? Some people do it. You get some students who say, yes, they're going to, you understand? So that happens. So you have someone sitting there for God knows how many hours, and you expect that person to come back with a result sheet. You expect that person to object to anything funny at the polling unit. So most times, you do pay them. There are people who will tell you, who will say to you, nope, I'm a member of this party, I don't want it. But unfortunately for us, especially after the 7 years we've been in now, or 8 years, should we say, Nigerians are more impoverished than ever. So you'll find people who will say to you that, yes, I'm a member of this party, but if I can get a stipend for sitting down for the next 6-7 hours in one place and be in your eyes, so be it. That's different to inducing me to vote for you.
So do you, pardon me, so do you
totally
have,
different.
So do you have cash stashed or funds stashed to cater to that?
No, I don't think most people have cash now. Some people have cash.
That's why I said funds. That's why I changed it to funds. Do you have funds for that?
I assume that most political parties have had people buy their forms, have had people donate to them, have run campaigns. And part of it would be logistics, not vote buying, on election day. Either to get your people to the collation center or what have you, to operate a situation room, Wi-Fi, etc., including your agents.
So it's interesting that as much as you think that this levels a playing field, your candidate thinks that I mean, all the people who may have stashed, looted funds, it is now useless. You also have a headache to combat with, because you just said that no one has cash, really.
Excuse me.
So I wonder.
Always, the moment the problem occurred, Konkozo has been consistent in saying that it is a problem that we can ill afford. The people, the masses of this country are suffering. It's difficult. I was in Epe, Ibejuleki, and Etiosa yesterday here in Lagos, and I wanted to, was it corn or bolly? And no one had cash in the car, you know? So I said, this thing is causing a problem to us all. So it's as simple as that. It is a problem. It's a policy I understand. You understand? I understand it. I think it has come at the wrong time. and we think the people are suffering unduly. But then again, we are appealing to Nigerians to ensure that there's no violence, and hopefully government will speed things up and improve the situation as quickly as possible.
I just wonder really if it's a fair trade-off, you know, leveling the playing field in some sense, and then, you know, impacting Nigerians, as a lot of people have said, negatively. There have been some positive sides, really, yes. But I just wonder if it's a fair trade-off, and I know that conversation would always go on. But I'll speak to this, because your candidate he inaugurated his PCC just last month, and we saw the parties do it last year. In fact, some had some lists they had been working on from years before, and they'd been building up to it. So I wonder, starting last month, barely a month now into, you know, the activities of the PCC, over 1,000 of them, I hear. What will this week be like for him? You've said there will be no big announcement as to maybe some sort of endorsement or what have you. Am I right?
No, you'll get some big announcements as to people endorsing him in the next 2-3 days.
In the next 2-3 days?
Yes.
From parties?
Groups endorsing him.
Political parties?
Just yesterday, 10,000 moved from the PDP in Kano to the NMPP. Just yesterday. You understand? And I know, for instance, that, look, in the past 3 days, I've been trying to catch up with him. He was in Taraba, he was in Benue, he's in Kogi as we speak. I don't know where he is right now. You understand? But I know that once I finish from here, I'm trying to catch him. I'm going to go to Abuja tonight, because there are many people who still want to talk with him and discuss.
I'm always curious when you hear thousands defected,
no,
thousands collapsed. How did you come up with that figure?
We came up with that.
Did they give you their registration
details? This is different from when some joker got off in the northeast somewhere and said that 3 million NMPP members had crossed with him to PDP. This is different. This was the PDP faction in Kano, and they had all their state ESCOs, local government ESCOs, national delegates, etc. I can't give you all the figures now, but it came, I was adding it up, it came to 10,000 and something. So that is why I said 10,000 plus. You understand? It was a specific, the entire faction, chairman down of the PDP in Kano. So we give conservative figures. We don't just pick figures from the sky.
So are they registered members of your party now?
Well, if they crossed yesterday, I'm sure they will all have they'll be going to their wards today and everything to make sure that they register.
Yeah, the natural question to follow that is part of the issues Kari has raised. How does this all impact not just on the election, but on the chances of your party in Kano, as well as the promises of your party to the people? I mean, there are those who would wonder there must have been something that was offered to them. They could have gone to any other party, but they chose to come to the NNPP. What's in it for them?
What's in it for them? One, they're based in Kano. They're politicians. They believe that Kano is clear. Kano is secure. So it's safe for them to take that decision, or it's safer for them to take that decision. Unlike the decision taken by someone who was given or had the ticket in the safest seat in the country, as Kwankwaso put it, Kano Central. I'm talking about Malam Shekarau, and who now moved. He is the one that you should wonder. Now, why would you leave the safest seat in the country, Kano Central, and then go and join the PDP? He's the person you should ask what they offered him.
So what do you mean by safest city? Pardon me.
No, we joke about it, saying it's the safest seat in the country.
Seat?
Seat.
Oh, I get it.
Senatorial,
city.
Safest senatorial seat.
Right.
As in, it is Kwankwaso's Kano Central.
Please go on. I just thought I heard city.
That's it. So basically, that is the thing. Some people are enticed by money. I tell you, I said there will be some announcements. And those announcements, some have been, about 2 or 3 of them have been brokered by myself. And I told them that if you're saying you're tired of, you're fed up of this and that, you can come across, you can work with him, he ain't gonna give you any money. Okay. You understand? So it's as simple as that.
All right. Our colleague in Abuja, Mokwe, has a question for you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mokwe.
Well, another candidate that doesn't give shishi as well.
No, ours is not shishi, Mokwe.
Curious. I know that this is the I know this is the week of projections. This is the week when people are tidying up areas where they think that they most likely would, be home and dry. Can you give us perhaps your own thinking, your own permutations for how your candidate is going to breast the tape come the 25th of February?
Yes. I think the mathematics, is simple. In the 19 states of the North, in all humility, we do not believe there's, or we know, let me be positive about it, in all humility, that the NNPP will make its 25% in all those 19 states plus the Federal Capital Territory. That leaves, if you're talking about an outright win, that leaves looking for 5 states in the entire South. And I believe that we have those states. As you say, these are projections, but we believe so. And then this must, of course, be coupled with the volume of votes. And when you look at the volume of votes, look to his strengths, or the strengths of the NNPP. And you will go in the Northwest, all the states in the Northwest, especially, of course, Kano, Kaduna, Jigawa, Katsina. Then you begin to go to the Northeast, and you see what is happening even in Borno, in Gombe, in Bauchi, places like that. Go to the North Central. He was in Benue yesterday. He was in Kogi yesterday as well. From the Northeast, he was in Taraba. So you see, and you can see Kwankwaso's play in the last few days. He's gone from Taraba to Kogi, to Benue to Kogi. That flank, he's clearing up and tidying up. So you'll see that the volume of votes you will get from those places will be way above the volume of votes that any candidate will be bringing to the table. Now, if we get the 5 states in the South, then it is game, set, and match. If we don't, then with the volume of votes, it will go to a runoff.
Very interesting analysis that you've given there, but for some people, from that analysis, it does show that your candidate seems to be a regional candidate. Given just where we are, and given the fact that the Nigerian Constitution is very particular about how you must win, and it's for a reason, for the sake of unity. Assuming your candidates were to emerge, as one of the front runners at the end of the day, say it were to go into a runoff, for instance, how do you think he's going to be able to convince all the other parts of Nigeria where he perhaps might not have had a great showing that he is indeed a president for them as well?
Yes, firstly, I disagree with you, Mark, where it doesn't show being parochial or being a regional candidate in any way. He said to you that now the issue is he the one that is regional, or are the voters the one who are ethnic and religious in outlook? That is the question you should ask yourself as well. You understand? So he has reached out. He's been in the South many times. He's been reaching out. I've been a Kwankwasia member since 2013. I'm Lagos Yoruba. So, and there are many. There's no state you do not have the NNPP well grounded. So that it would be easy to convince anyone if the runoff comes. They will look at it. If this person has come up with the volume of votes required, now, if for one reason or the other, either due to ethnicity or religious, I don't want to use the word bigotry, choices made by people, that person doesn't scratch the surface properly in other regions of the country, then it is for us to look at the reasons why. Is it that the projects, that the programs are not good enough? Is it that he hasn't gone round, he hasn't sold his program to the people? Or is it that there are some people who are saying, oh, it's because we want a Christian this time, or we want a Yoruba man this time, or we want an Igbo man this time? Those are more important than the fact. You've seen Kwankwaso. Right. He's gone round. He's shown that he's a true Nigerian. He's not parochial in any way. So that question should go to the masses, but not to him.
Everywhere he's gone, he's always appealing. He's always had that Kwankwasia movement, the cult following.
There's nothing wrong.
Coming out. And,
There's nothing wrong.
Shutting down wherever they are.
Good.
Literally.
It's good to understand that he has almost like a cult-like following, mass following. There's nothing wrong with that. It's because that they in Kano and the North know him better than they know him over here. They know that he performed. They know that he sticks to his word.
Let's wind down. Yes. Put a figure to it if you could. Those projections, because I know that those are things you do. You have your situation.
Those are the things we do.
What figure are you putting to your projection?
Has not been in the situation room.
Right.
I've been in Lagos.
So you don't have a target as a party.
I know they have a target, but you see, look, Buhari won with how many votes? Can you recall?
Are you trying to model after that?
No, I'm just trying to tell you that whoever is going to win on Friday, if it is an outright victory, will be far less, unless the turnout is higher. And once the turnout is high, then the APC and PDP are gone.
Okay. I guess we'll wait to see. As you said, it's just Friday. It's just Saturday morning. Ladipo Johnson is spokesperson to the NNPC Kwankwaso presidential campaign.
He said NNPC earlier, and then you followed suit.
Oh. No, NNPP.
NNPP.
I know.
Okay.
He wants me
that happens a lot.
I hope Senator Kwankwaso has heard him. He wants me to go to the Ministry of Petroleum, maybe.
Spokesperson, NNPP Kwankwaso presidential campaign. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
Well, there's more where that came from. We're back right after now. Stay with us.
It is an emergency meeting of the National Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress and the Progressives Governors Forum. One after the other, the governors elected on the platform of the APC arrived at the national headquarters of the party. The meeting, which is coming less than a week to the Presidential National Assembly elections, commenced at about 3 p.m. with the governors of Plateau, Nasarawa, Niger, Kaduna, Kogi, Yobe, Zamfara, Ekiti, and Jigawa states in attendance, while the deputy governors of Imo and Katsina represented their states. The national chairman of the party highlights the essence of the meeting.
You will recall the recent developments that has necessitated, the need for this invitation. We do not want to sit in judgment of anybody or anybody's, in regard to what is going on today in the country as it affects our great party.
As the meeting progressed behind closed doors, the presidential candidate of the party, Bola Tinubu, arrives at the party headquarters and later takes his leave without speaking to journalists. At the end of the meeting, which lasted about 5 hours, the national chairman of the party reads the resolution of the meeting.
And at the end of the discussion, we have resolved as follows. And this resolution is without prejudice whatsoever to the case that is lying in the Supreme Court at this point in time. This has to do with the issue of currency redesign. We note very seriously that the program and its implementation is causing tremendous difficulties to the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and to the national economy. That we urge the Attorney General of the Federation and the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to respect the Supreme Court's order of interim injunction, which is still assisting. That the meeting is urging His Excellency, Mr. President, to intervene in resolving the issues that are causing these great difficulties to the people and to the economy.
The attendees have given their positions on the matter and hopefully looking forward to a decision that will go their way.
Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, Princess Atika Ajana joins us next. She is the Assistant Secretary Protocol and Events for the APC's Presidential Campaign Council. She is also a member of the Media and Strategic Communications Women Wing of the APC, among others. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Thank you for having me. Uncle, your hairstyle is beautiful.
Oh, what a week it will be for your party. Because at the moment, it does appear to a lot of people, and perhaps you speak to that as well, as though what they are currently facing, it can be described, some think it's a typology of an existential threat for the party if this is not handled properly. So, can the House divided against itself stand?
Thank you very much. I'd like to say, first of all, we're not divided. That's what the opposition like to make others believe, because our governors, some of our governors have come out to say, you know, we feel the pain of the people. We are not going to just go the way of the CBN governor or what the Attorney General of the Federation have come to say to the people. And so people are now looking at the governors. These governors interact with the people directly. They deal with the locals. They know more than anyone what people are facing, and then hearing from them is reassuring. That's what they have come out to do clearly. So we're not divided against each other. We're with the president, we're with him. We're just appealing. If you see what happened after the meeting with the national chairman of our party yesterday, you heard him appealing to even the CBN governor and the Attorney General to just allow the interim verdict of the Supreme Court to stand for now. And we went ahead to appeal to Mr. President. I'm sure you all saw the podcast that came out from the president last night. That's something very relieving. It shows that he's listening. And then, so it's just the opposition. So, we're not divided. We're still together, but so very strong together.
Some governors and the president are clearly not on the same page concerning this currency redesign policy.
Absolutely.
If that is all division, what is it?
Like I told you, Chamberlain, you have to come out and talk to the people. Even the president mentioned that he had seen the hardship that this policy has inflicted on the people, and he's only seeking that we should be a bit more patient.
Up till when?
With him. He said there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm taking that very seriously, because he smiled at the end of that broadcast. He said there will be light at the end of the tunnel. So we are holding on to that.
Okay.
We still, don't forget, we have the 22nd. We're waiting for the Supreme Court judges, I beg your pardon, to come out. So 22nd is still tomorrow, sir. We still have to next tomorrow to, you know, and we still have 4 days to election. We're not perturbed. We're just worried about people who need to go about their usual businesses, people who've been planning to travel for election. You can't travel without cash. And then the 200 naira notes, how many of it do we even have in circulation?
So is there any indication whatsoever, since you say that the president, I mean the chairman of the party is appealing to the president says he understands the hardship, naturally, people will think or expect that the president will then make another statement concerning the 500 naira and the 1,000 naira notes, and perhaps in line with the Supreme Court decision, which says, just hold on, we're going to decide on this matter. Should people expect any further commentary on the part of the president about those scenarios?
We are more concerned on actions than comments. I won't expect any broadcast from the president again. He has done a lot in 72 hours. He has spoken to us twice now. And we are waiting for the CBN.
Not the president?
Not the president this time. No, the CBN, yeah, they take orders from the president, but we are expecting the CBN governor to go back to Mr. President. Haven't seen what's happening on the streets of Nigeria. Chamberlain, lives have been lost, in case you're not aware. Just yesterday, a woman was almost lynched at YIAGA Council in Abuja here because she decided to up her percentage to 40%. She was giving people, when you transfer 10,000 naira into her account, she gives you equivalent of 7,000 naira. And just yesterday, she changed it to 4,000 naira. That's 40%. And then the people got angry. She said she had to employ a security officer to protect her business. So that's cost. We also go into what she's charging us. And the news was everywhere. So the CBN governor is humane. I still want to believe that we will achieve the goal. They said it's going to curb insecurity, it's going to curb banditry, it's going to boost our economy. But what it's doing to us right now is dividing us and tearing our party apart.
Well, you just already said that your party is not torn apart. I mean,
no, it's making us vulnerable in presence of opposition, because the PDP now have this, especially at selling point. I was in Okene recently, and then I was trying to talk to some people, and they went ahead to say, oh, no, we're not voting. We've been told that you put us into this hardship, that if you're coming, you're going to inflict more hardship on us. And I said, no, it's not true. Was it Tinubu that implemented the policy, or did he even? He doesn't even know anything about it. So it's something we're looking. You should even vote for us, because we are saying that we are against this. We are not against it in totality. We're talking about the time. Just allow the old currency and the new one to run concurrently.
In other words, the people will still go through the hardship. It's just not now.
No.
It seems that's what your party is saying.
No, what we are saying is there will be succor at the end of the day. I've been very mindful of using if, because we are going to win. When we win, I've seen spokespeople come on stage on your studio to say, there will be runoff. They are looking at very close margin. They are hoping to get 25%. We're not even looking at getting less than 50% from the 36 states of Nigeria, including the FCT. So it's going to be tight. It's going to be, everyone have been, entertaining fear. We have done our homework. We have a very sellable candidate that have made the job very easy for us. He has a fantastic track record of performance. People have seen, we've talked about it. Lagos is there for you to look at. The people he has made are there for you to also look at. And this is a man that came to redefine what dignity in labor meant. It's only in Lagos you see someone who is a conductor. He's having a law graduate as a wife at home because, nobody is looking down on him because he's been respected. That's who Bola Ahmed Tinubu is, and that's what he's bringing to Nigerian people, and that's a sellable candidate. And we've done our job. We have over 176,000 poly units around Nigeria. APC, I put it to you, not even the PDP, have enough structure on ground to go around the entire poly units. We have not one, not two, not three people, at various poly units. So we're doing some are practicing sectional, regional politics. Some are using religious bigotry to divide Nigerians or to confuse people instead of convincing them. But we are not doing any of that. We're just doing our homework, and we will win.
Okay, so I find it very interesting. I want to go back to this policy. Even though, there's so much that we can say about your candidate in terms of what a number of Nigerians have seen as his flaws. We could focus on that. But let's go back to the policy, because I find it interesting that you decided to talk to, appeal to the CBN governor when all of the time it is the president who has delivered his speech. All of the time it was the president who granted his own approval. All of the time it is the president who has given yet another little speech, I think lasting about 2 minutes. Roughly less than 3 minute speech. Yeah. All of the time, it is the president who has unflinchingly spoke about his support for this particular policy, even though he's appealing to Nigerians to be patient. Why is it that, you know, APC governors, or the APC as a whole, why are they reluctant to have a meeting with the president to say, Mr. President, it is you who has put us in this jeopardy, not the CBN governor?
Mark, will you recall that some governors met with the president? El-Rufai said it. Governor El-Rufai, when he came on air, he mentioned that they were going to meet with the president. What we are seeing is the court injunction, and that's not on the president, but on the CBN governor. And he was called upon. He went back. The CBN governor came into the country and went back to see Mr. President behind closed doors. And all he could tell us when he came out of that meeting was that he had, you know, he emphasized the importance of this policy to Mr. President. And he was hoping that the president was still going to stand by the initial agreement to let the policy slide. Is
the president aware of how this policy is affecting the party during their campaigns?
Oh, he said it clearly. He's been part of our campaigns, and then everywhere we've been to, apart from you seeing him on screen, you know, we usually have, when we go to receive him, he has this side talk, one-on-one talk with the candidate, with the party's chairman, even with the governors. You know, they come in the same vehicles. These talks are ongoing. If he's unaware of it, he won't be making the statements he made yesterday. He said he is very much aware of the hardship.
No, I mean for the party, your party's campaign, how this is affecting the party's campaign.
Oh yes, we've been saying it everywhere. The PDP, especially because they are the only opposition I see, as far as I'm concerned. We can't be talking about 93 million, over 93 million people with PVC who are going to vote, and then you want to go by what you have on social media of less than 30% of the population, or even the number of people who have collected their PVCs, or you're going by a politician who is just, you know, concerned about votes coming from one region, or you're concerned about somebody who is coming to tell us that they have integrity, so they're not going to buy votes. We're not looking at the vote buying aspect. What we are looking at...
But the vote buying aspect is very important. And some people will say, I mean, we've seen what happened in Ekiti, and what's really interesting, my colleague Kayode, I'm sure he'll have questions for you in a moment, witnessed some of it when he went to, was it Ekiti he went to? And it's an issue, it's a big issue. Some people have said that APC seems to be crying the loudest because they intended to buy votes in this election, that they have a war chest, and what they really wanted to do was be able to sway the people with money. And that's why their cry is there are other political parties that have asked the president to rescind, but APC's wailing seems to be the loudest of all of the political parties that are crying.
Because we are the party to beat. We are the party to beat. We are the party at the center. We have the president, the sitting president, who have approved this policy that has another effect on the people other than the initial aim of the policy. That's why we're crying. It's very easy for anyone to come today and say, like they are doing right now, they are doing it in my state so much. That's the only talking point they have now in Kogi State, to say
so it is
APC have done this, APC have done that. And then they are looking at vote buying. How do you buy votes? You talk about vote buying when people are at the polling units. You don't go to give people money from their homes. You don't go to encourage people to come. No, the vote buying happens at the polling units. We are concerned about people even having access to go home, having something to eat. You haven't eaten, you won't leave your house to go and vote if you don't have anything at stake. But you just sit back. But what we are saying is, who are the king buyers of votes? PDP. They started it. They started the vote buying. Yeah, what he saw in Ekiti played out during the governorship election, fine. It was a case of, in Nigeria today, we have to be very realistic. I heard someone trying to compare our election with American election. This is Nigeria. If you allow people to come and talk to your voters, I've seen where a family man came to the polling unit with his wife to come and vote. And they got there, and a particular agent of a political party approached the wife and told her, if you vote for our party, I'll give you 2,000 naira. But you need to show me evidence that you've voted for our party. And she turned to her husband and said, you know what? I'm not voting for your candidate. I need this money. So that's what we're talking about.
If your party is crying about this policy, doesn't it then feed into this narrative out there that this policy is meant to hurt the presidential candidate of the APC and confer an advantage on the other?
Where that is coming from should be the question you're asking, Chamberlain. Who has ulterior motive behind this policy, the implementation of this policy? That is not for me to say. But we all know what has played in the background. And we've heard great leaders come out to say, the game players behind this have ulterior motive other than the initial purpose. As far as we are concerned, the initial aims have been defeated. The initial aim of this policy.
What was the initial aim?
Yeah, to curb insecurity, to curb crime, banditry. When kidnappers go for people, when they kidnap, they have you they have abducted your person. They will request for money. They usually ask for cash. Now they all know there is no cash in Nigeria. But it's not true. They're asking for dollars.
Oh dear.
They're asking for dollars.
So we'll come back to some other matters, but let's go to Lagos. Our colleagues have got some questions.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. The bit that saddens me the most, that experience in Ekiti State, for example, and see how much poverty has been weaponized, such that people don't mind giving out their votes for what? Paltry. Well, for them, it's not even paltry. It's a lot. 2,000 naira, 5,000 naira. It's really sad. But I'd like you to speak to this point, because it comes across as though the thinking now within your party, and it's really strong, the way it comes across, is that the president with this policy, whether we talk about the CBN governor or the AGF, the buck stops at the president's table. And I think all of us agree with that, whether or not we say it out there. And the thinking is that, well, the president with this policy is sort of burning the ladder with which he used to climb up to the position he's in now, being president, which he was re-elected 4 years ago. And that sentiment comes across as though it's quite strong within your party, and the conversation happens from time to time. And I wonder, for you, by extension, your party, do you think the president has done enough to prove that he's not burning that ladder, or in fact, just pulling that ladder in its entirety?
I'm quite convinced. Thank you very much. I don't think the president is doing just that. People are entitled to their opinion. I'll speak for myself. I don't think that's what he has done. I have been at 4 different campaigns now where the president himself was around. He was in Sokoto, he was in Bauchi, he was in Nasarawa. He's going to be with us in Lagos tomorrow. And next to him, he has said to those who care to listen, he also said it last night, that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a believer in Nigeria. He is a true Nigerian, that he has known him for over 20 years, and he is also very much aware that he loves Nigeria and the people of Nigeria as much as he, Mr. President, does. And he has also appealed to the people to vote for Bola Ahmed Tinubu when they were trying to misconstrue him with the videos that they brought out when he was in the UK, when he visited the UK. They just cut out a part of his speech that said Nigerians should have a right to vote for whoever they wanted to vote for. They didn't give us the concluding part of that video. So a lot of people took the video the other way around, but that wasn't what it was. Something led to that particular line, and I was very glad when the full video came out. He is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He should, of course, ensure that there is free, credible, and fair elections. And he also has the mandate to ensure that democracy is strengthened. People have right to vote. We're not forcing people to say, come out and vote for Asiwaju. He is saying, I'm appealing to Nigerians to vote for Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is a man I will want to, hand over government to come May 29, 2023. So I don't think he will say one and do the other, because he's Mr. Integrity, as we all know. He's the man of his words. He is the man of his words. If there's anything we don't have that about when it comes to President Muhammadu Buhari, it's his integrity. And he has said it times without number, and trust me, he's going to say it again tomorrow when he comes to the finale in Lagos.
Right, and I'd like you to speak to Nigerians on this point. I think, vote buying is real, and I think we should just admit that. And I think that's one of the challenges. Lots of political parties don't want to admit to that. And that way we can't even solve the problem, whether or not they call it vote buying, voter inducement, or just being kind to people, just providing food stuff, whatever the case is. Voter inducement is real, coupled with the poverty rate in our country. And I'd like you to speak to Nigerians pointedly this morning and tell them, does your party have plans? Are they implementing plans? Have they set aside funds to either induce voters, be kind to voters by providing, all of those things? Are there plans like that within your party? I'd like you to speak to Nigerians, perhaps, just to address that.
There are no vote buying plans. We don't need to buy votes. I've been voting since 2003, and I have seen situations where people come with packs of water, plates of food for those who have been on the long queue for a long time. And I've also seen where people are swayed by some agents of other political parties. So you now have every agent being equipped to say, just in case people come to try to convince your voters. You go to the polling unit with members of your household, and you will be shocked at the way people will, because they see you as a figurehead. Nobody will look at me today and then come to me for something, and nobody will see any member of my family or any member of my community, so to speak, and come to say, we're coming to buy your vote, because they won't even listen to you, because we have done a lot. The APC have done a lot, especially where I come from and where I stay in Abuja here and in Kogi State. We're the party to beat. We have all selling points. We don't need to convince you, and it's not the money we'll give you at the polling unit. We've been doing a lot of programs to bring succor to the people. We have water, we have good roads, we have the SIP and the pocket money. It's enough selling point for our party. So we're selling our party, and then we're also telling people, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu have been here severally. He has been to Kogi State, he has seen the people, he has also been to FCT, and the ministers of FCT and the governor of Kogi State are doing a lot. And you have 1,001 members of our party doing same across board. So what we are doing is now for the election day. We have been preparing for this election since time immemorial, and then we're positive.
Many still say, look, there's still many challenges facing the APC. For instance, in Adamawa, what's going on with the governorship candidate? Is she still suspended? Is she suspended? Is she back? There's confusion there. What's happening?
Yes, the confusion is something, it's normal. It's just some alarmists that are blowing it out of proportion.
But she was suspended?
Yes, by the local government party chairman. And his reason for the suspension is that she is practicing sectional politics. She's trying to bring segregation. And we all know in the political parties today, especially it's still part of the hardship that has been caused by this policy. If you ask me, by extension, yes. Everyone thinks, you're a candidate of a party, so you have millions of money stashed somewhere to dole out to people, for election, and then somebody is feeling like his office is threatened or he's not being respected.
So what? They want her to share the money?
Or some other people are, taking advantage of personal relationship with a candidate, and but Senator Binani is an astute politician. She is someone who knows her onions as well, and then she understands the rules, and she's been working by the book. So, by the way, committees have been set up to look into it, and very soon you hear from us.
So what, she's likely going to be recalled, but isn't that suspension going to affect her chances?
No, it won't. Binani, if there is any candidate that is very sure now, is the people of Adamawa. They are more united than ever. We were there. The Women's Supporters Forum of the APC were there to show her support. We were on ground. We went through nooks and crannies of Adamawa with her, and we saw the love. There is a tribe that that forbids women leading. That particular tribe took an oath, so to say, in our presence, to say, you are the woman, you've done so much for us as a senator, so we will stand with you, we'll stand by you, and we're sure that,
Many still wonder why you think that your party will win the presidential election, because if you have different state governors who are singing from a different hymn sheet with the president, some states are even spending the old diary notes as it were today, and then they wonder, so where then is your path to victory? What states do you think that or you're so confident that your party will win? Because right now, they say momentum is shifting.
Momentum is shifting nowhere, Chamberlain. What you all are seeing is what you're seeing on social media, just hearsay, fallacies that people want you to believe. We know what's on ground. We have 22 governors, remember? And then we have some other governors that are working with us that we're not going to mention. We're not going to tell you on air. They have their governorship candidates. They have their preferred senatorial
so
and
if,
House
if
of
that's
Reps
the same, if that's happening for other governors, how are we then sure that it's not happening for APC
It's not happening for
governors
APC governors. It's not happening for APC governors because we are formidable, we're united, and then everyone have thrown their hats, in the rings for Bola Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu. Look at our campaigns. Everywhere we go to, we are accepted. The 22 states that we have in Nigeria today, at least I can tell you categorically that I anchored 16 of those states, the rallies. We usually arrive a day to the rallies, and then we take feelers from people around. We are the party to beat, and we've done our homework. We're still doing our homework. We will continue until election day. We will not just vote and go back home. We will vote. We will stand, like we've been telling our supporters, to ensure that our votes are protected. And we have people, because Bola Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu is somebody you can die for. So
all right,
we will
have to thank you for coming on.
And then
Princess Atika
I'll come back and celebrate with you guys after our victory.
Well, Princess Atika Ajana is the Assistant Secretary, Protocol and Events for the APC's Presidential Campaign Council. She's also a member of the Media and Strategic Communications Committee of the Women's Wing of the APC. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Right, we're back in just a moment. Stay with us.
My high expectations of your leadership, particularly in relation to the provision of requisite police security that will engender not only just a stable security space ahead of the general election, but to guarantee the credibility of the exercise. In this task, I call on the Inspector General of Police and indeed all law enforcement agencies that will be complementing the police in the election security process to note that the eyes of the nation and the global community will be on you all. My pledge to bequeath to the nation a democratic culture in which the police will not only be apolitical and impartial during the 2023 general election, but in which the process will be peaceful and secure, and the outcome truly reflective of the free will of the citizens. This vision can best be achieved through an efficient police force, and I am delighted that the force leadership is advancing my vision in this regard.
Well, the governorship candidate of the National Rescue Movement, the NRM, in Lagos State joins us on the program, as you've seen. Mr. Akeomi Braithwaite is here in our Lagos studio. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
The buzz for a new Lagos. That's the tagline,
yeah.
I imagine. But, for a lot of people, the buzz now is this Naira redesign, the new Naira notes or otherwise. I mean, the question you were asking earlier on if anybody has cash, and some will say it's almost diabolical to have cash in you because it's really hard to get. And so let's start off on that as some sort of maybe a mock examination for you. We've seen different governors across states coming out with one policy or the other, pronouncements as to how to perhaps ameliorate the situation for residents in their states. And I wonder for you, if you were governor of Lagos State, maybe not today, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when this policy really hit the road, what would you have done? What policies would you have taken or followed through with?
I understand the governor of Oyo State actually allowed free mass transportation. Certainly that would be a policy that I think would be worthy, of emulating. Since you're looking at who does this affect the most, you would now need to look at that aspect of your society in that segment and say, okay, what if we let people ride free on the buses? I think that's something that could be a very, very immediate amelioration of, getting people moving around. And certainly for the public transportation system, that is something that could be done, very, very quickly. Transportation costs represent a very, very major cost in everybody's daily activities. That, I think, would be the central. Anything else in terms of perhaps maybe you have some food reservoirs, that you have in these many warehouses, that you might have for contingency issues. We'll probably sort of let a certain volume of that out into the market and let people also have, some help, maybe some food kitchen type arrangements. Yeah.
This situation now presents a very interesting dynamic to it. The Supreme Court has a ruling, an order on this, and the president has his position. And as I said, you've seen governors, Kaduna State governor, for example, saying, well, right here in my state, this is how things would go. And you've seen other governors saying, well, if you're a business and you do this, this is what happens to you. So this is a very interesting situation. You, let's imagine for a moment, are governor. Would you be, towing the path of what we've seen the other governors do in terms of this pronouncement? Would you maintain status quo, as they've said? Or what exactly would you have done if you were governor?
Yeah, again, on the advice of my Attorney General, I believe that certainly once the Supreme Court has spoken, that becomes the law. The Supreme Court has interpreted the situation and has said status quo. So in effect, status quo, as I would interpret it, is that all currencies remain valid. And to that extent, within the state, we are running a federal system. So within the state, that would be, in effect, legal tender.
Understanding the facts that, and it's very interesting, really, just hearing sides to this, such that a lot of people understand perhaps how governance works, knowing that you do not issue that legal tender. You're not in any, you don't have any authority over that. That's at the president's level. And he has given the pronouncement that, well, off of that, I think that the 200 should be legal. So you're saying you would go against the president's directive and tow the path of the Supreme Court.
Correct.
How would that happen? How would that be, in your opinion, and from where you sit? How would that bias, if I can use the term, of yours for the Supreme Court's ruling over that of that pronouncement of the president, how would it be activated or effected?
Well, again, in a federal system, the president doesn't have that sort of dictatorial right over the governor of the state. The governor of the state is the executive, no doubt. However, the president is running the monetary system and the monetary policy. So as the executive, there's no way you're going to go force open the doors of the bank and then, withdraw the monies and say, or stand in front of the bank and say, hey, with a gun pointed at their head and say, you've got to take this money in. But as far as maintaining that sort of legal stance to say, if anybody is not accepting, the legal tender, then surely they are going against the law, as it were. And if anybody goes against the law, then they would have to face that level of prosecution. Now, exactly how that would work in practice would then be down to my Attorney General to to effect whether there's going to be prosecutions or whatever.
It's good that you mentioned the fact that you recognize that it's the executive arm of the federal government that executes the monetary policy, which powers is devolved to the CBN to certify what is legal tender and what is not. It's not up to the Supreme Court to issue legal tenders. All the Supreme Court or any court that can do is to make the pronouncement, and it's the job of the executive to execute it. But at this point, the federal executive arm of government has taken a position which is in deference to that of the Supreme Court, and I think that's the point that Kari is making.
Yes, I think this is a major conundrum. The question is the Supreme Court above the executive? Or is the executive above the Supreme Court? Or do these arms of government have co-equal, standing? I think this is a situation where we're all going to have to find out. We've not been here before, but certainly we are running a federal system. It's not a unitary system. Now, in the unitary system, you give the command and everything drills down. In the federal system, each state, also has some level of action. Right. Now, this is an exclusive matter. It's on the exclusive list, no doubt. But the question remains, if it's now a question of what is now legal tender today. That's the question I think that we're all dealing with. Is the 500 naira and the 1,000 naira still legal tender? It would appear to me that the Supreme Court is saying, yes, maintain the status quo, which is that 500 and 1,000 remains legal tender. It also appears that the president is saying, no, I disagree with you, CBN. I have taken the decision that this is no longer legal tender. And you're absolutely right. That's within the president's purview. Now, the question is, what is within the Supreme Court's purview? Now, I'm not a lawyer, but as I see it, if the Supreme Court felt that it had no jurisdiction, then is it going on an exercise of futility and just wasting all our time? Or does the Supreme Court actually have jurisdiction? Now, what I don't know yet is whether the president reports into the Supreme Court or the Supreme Court reports into the president. Now, if they have their own sort of areas of jurisdiction, and we're told that these are three arms of governance, I would certainly love to see how this ends.
Well, a lot of Nigerians would like to think that the Nigerian people should be above whoever is deciding what the interests of the Nigerian people.
After all, it is we the people.
We the people, right? Should be principal in all of this. So let's talk about your manifesto, your plan for Lagos. I mean, we're not counting down to your elections, at least this Saturday. Yours is still in March, but it's closer than a lot of people would think. And your tagline has also been restructuring Lagos for the benefit of all. Am I correct?
Redesign, rebuild, restructure Lagos.
Restructure Lagos. I mean, I caught that on your website, and they've always said restructuring means different things for a lot of people at the national level. But it's interesting you bring that to a state like Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria. I mean, all of this talk about the Naira swap will perhaps be felt more in Lagos because there's a lot of money that changes hands. So when you say restructure Lagos for the benefit of all, what does that restructure mean to you and perhaps the average Lagosian, as we call it?
Yeah, one thing that stands out to me is that Lagos State and the House of Assembly have repeatedly turned down this idea of autonomy for the local government. I find that sad because certainly that's definitely one area that needs to be restructured. And it is that way because if we truly want to lift people out of poverty, the only way you're going to really effectively do it is the way all countries that have made progress do it, and that is by going to the local levels. You go down to that local level and you ensure that you are really bringing up cottage industries, and these kind of activities start at that level. That's the way that China brought hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. You know, there is no magic way of doing it other than you really get down to the brass tacks and you get people to really start getting into activity. So what restructuring means is that you look at each local government and you look at that local government and say, look, we have got to look at you in terms of GDP. So if you imagine that you take GDP at local government level and you start to really energize it, that rolls up, the aggregate of that becomes the overarching state GDP. So essentially, if you don't restructure, you will just leave these as comatose as they are today. And who are we hurting? Ourselves. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if the local government now feels that it doesn't have any ownership, it doesn't have any, it's not taking its due position and responsibility, things are going to be the way they are. And you see, the Lagos as it is today is chaotic because the local government guys have taken their hands off. They're not allowed to do anything per se. They've got to go report to the father, you know, in Alausa.
Is that a function of state laws or the federal laws? We saw what happened at the National Assembly recently, the push for, the Constitution Amendment, and local government autonomy was a big one. And we saw how states voted on that one, and it was a sour point for a lot of us. I thought we had all agreed that we expected a local government. So how much responsibility would you place at the table of the state and at the federal level, which of course we know we have to make that decision collectively, at least with 2/3 vote?
Coming in, how much responsibility would I place on the federal?
Yes, and the state, yes. For local government autonomy, that is.
Well, the Constitution already has given the roles of the third tier of government, so it exists constitutionally. A number of states have agreed that a number of state assemblies have voted in favor of that. Autonomy is just really a financial autonomy to say, look, listen, you can get this money and do with it as you require to do. Some states have held on to the money that's coming through, even though the president, as at last year, was saying, okay, look, let's give it direct, we allocate the money directly to the local government.
And it took that to court.
Absolutely. So I think that, in many respects, yes, the federal has no right, per se, to try to alter the equation. That's left to the states, to really determine, yes, do we want this to really happen, or do we want to keep it the way it is? I think it's a bit hypocritical of states now to be shouting that you want this restructuring and all of that, and yet you're strangulating your local government. So let the local governments breathe, for goodness sake. So I believe that the states need to man up to this, allow the local government autonomy, and let the local government do what it is constitutionally required to do in terms of basic education, adult education, vocational training, fixing of roads. All the things that matter to you and I are within the purview of local government.
Do you think that fact, okay, let me speak about the political education or maturity at the local levels. Do you think it is sufficient for that kind of responsibility? Because that's one of the arguments a number of states are bringing up, that look, the politics at the local level is probably not strong enough to be able to stand on its own, so they need the supervision, so to speak, of the states, which is the reason the Constitution says there should be a state joint local government account.
Okay, so to get a president of the country, he must come from a ward. That ward is within a local government. You and I come from local government, okay? I think we're pretty intellectual. And that means, therefore, that the people that live in local governments are different type of people. All strata of society are within local government. It's just that people have not been interested in local government. We've not been made to see the importance, as it were. We've all focused on presidency and state. But where it affects us the most, your primary health is a local government issue. So to that extent, what people like me are saying today is that, look, let's wake up, right? Let's understand something, that it starts, as the maxim goes, all politics is local. And it's really true, because the street that runs right in front of your house is what matters to your car. the fact that your car is going to be able to run smoothly and whatever is a function of what roads are you driving on, every day. So to a large extent, we need to now get people more aware that, hey, guess what? What your solutions that you really need that are very, very close to you are the responsibility of your local government. Therefore, those people who should be running the local government should be people who are educated enough, who understand the issues of society, and who are there to do what they need to do. After all, if you look at America, where we borrow our system from, you have the mayor, you have all these guys who are really down there at the local level, and they're really held to account by the people.
A colleague has asked you a number of questions about your 3 Rs, as one might want to put it. What would be, if you can say, the 3 top concerns you have that if you had the chance, or your plans for Lagos State, that if you had the chance, these are the 3 top sectors or issues that you would want to give priority attention as governor of the state?
The very first one would be employment. I'm a full employment type person. I believe that if you don't fix employment, a number of issues are linked to unemployment. Crime. There is a correlation between high unemployment and crime rates.
Does that mean you will increase the civil service employment?
Civil service?
I mean, when you say that's the
I believe we have about nearly 60,000 civil servants in Lagos. I'm someone who also comes from the ICT background.
Okay.
We're talking AI today and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot that computers can do. So in that regard, we won't need to increase. We need to do more computerization in the civil service. But I would bring a lot of employment into areas that require lots of labor. And interestingly, the way the world is going now too, almost every area of endeavor can actually have robots and things like that. But that would cause a social problem for us. So we don't want to go down that route. But so you take the traditional areas that are labor intensive, such as agriculture, throughout the whole value chain. I happen to own a farm, so I understand, the whole thing from the seed generation to all of that across, okay? That's a very, very labor intensive industry. We would definitely put a lot of jobs there. You have the tourism, hospitality, that's very, very labor intensive. Anywhere you go across the world, you see that there's a lot of people that are employed, in the tourism industry. Waste. Lagos is a waste nightmare, but it also provides an opportunity for labor, for jobs.
Right.
So you can put a lot of people there into those whole recycling and whatever that we can do there. Sports is another area that's begging for it to be turned into career. Every type of sporting endeavor that you can imagine can be turned into a profession. In England, there are people who are millionaires just by playing snooker.
Right.
So we would look at all of these areas and really deploy and make sure full employment is definitely one area. The second area is enterprise. I mentioned earlier this cottage industry. That's what China does. That's what Germany does. To this day, Germany is very, very big on its MSMEs, to the extent that it provides grants for them buying the equipment and all that they're going to use in specific sectors. They target specific sectors and they raise and it's like it's too small to fail. The third area of real importance would be social services. I would be very, very big on social security because due to no fault of their own, people can't find employment. They can't eat livelihood. And we vilify the masses. We talk about they're looking for stomach infrastructure. But that's a bit rich when you consider the fact that America, the most capitalist nation of all, has a safety net for the disadvantaged members of its society. So you can't have a society that doesn't have a safety net,
right,
and expect that there's going to be stability, you're going to be able to grow your economy and all that. So that would be the third one.
I want us to wind down on this. It's a very interesting conversation. In the last election, Your party at the national level polled 6,229, the presidential candidate. Lagos, I mean, that's in the nation of what it was over 80 million registered voters at that time. 84 million. Now Lagos has 9 million registered voters. We don't know about the PVC collection, so we're hoping that at least we can clock in at least over 50% of that. What are you targeting in terms of, votes? What are you targeting such that, I know that they always say that your party, small parties. The question is, are you small in terms of the financial capacity, in terms of membership? Maybe that's a conversation for another day. But let's end on that. What is your target, really, as we enter?
I think, look, I would be looking at about 1.5 million, votes as being the number that can get us over the line. And I say that in looking at 2019 numbers, that the current governor polled 739,000, votes, barely 12% of the registered voters, okay? So there are a massive number of people that are undecided who didn't go out to vote last because they kept saying, who am I going to vote for? I don't see the candidate I'm voting for, or even the issues, are not really the issues that I can see moving forward. So I'm appealing to that large number of the undecided, of people who are looking for somebody who really has what it takes with a proven track record. People are saying, okay, can you do it? And I'm saying, okay, you know what? That's a very good question and an important question, because you have to ask yourself, right, the person that's going to take this Lagos, which is a very, very diverse, very complex society, it's all of Nigeria put into one place, has to be someone that in his past, you can see that he's handled diversity, he has human capital ability, and somebody who really has financial stewardship, who can take that financial aspect of Lagos and really deal with it as it. So
your target is undecided voters.
Undecided voters.
So it's been a very interesting conversation. I mean, your background cuts across communications, customer service, and all of that. So it'll be interesting to see the build up to this election. But we'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Akiomi Braithwaite, the Lagos governorship candidate of the NRM. Thank you for
having me. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, so that's a snapshot of what to expect here in Lagos, but the conversation continues. We're counting down to what? Saturday. Don't go away. We'll be back.
It's the grand finale of the People's Democratic Party presidential campaign holding at the Ribado Square in Yola, the Adamawa state capital. Mr. Atiku Abubakar and his running mate, Governor Ifeanyi Okoh of Delta State, alongside the campaign team, arrived to a rousing cheer from party supporters. The campaign is attended by governors of Akwa Ibom, Sokoto, Edo, Bauchi, and the host governor, Modu Fintiri, and they urged the supporters to ensure victory for Mr. Atiku Abubakar.
Today, we've seen you in large numbers. Next Saturday, we want you to translate what we've seen today to votes.
Atiku will come and do the job of unifying us, inshallah.
The national chairman of the PDP and the vice presidential candidate assured the people that the party will work to bring dividend of democracy to Nigerians.
We know that many of our farmers are worried if they can even produce from their farm because of the insecurity and the fact that they cannot have access to fertilizers because of the high cost. Do not worry. Help is coming on the way. And that help is Atiku Abubakar.
The PDP gets a boost as 5 political parties collapse their structures to support Mr. Abubakar. The party also received some decantees, including some members of the All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council. These developments give Mr. Atiku Abubakar a sense of victory in the 2023 presidential election as he commends Nigerians across the country for their support.
Let me promise Nigerians that we shall never disappoint you. If you give us your mandate, we promise to live by our promises to make sure that we have a united country, that we have a peaceful country, that we have a buoyant economy for our country, and that we have the best education for our children. And also, we devolve powers to our states and local governments with corresponding resources.
Except for Rivers and Taraba states, Mr. Atiku Abubakar has toured 34 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, gathering support from the electorate across the country. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. Yes, Matthias Sado joins us next. He is the Director of Strategy, Research and Strategy for Niger State's PDP's Presidential Campaign Council. He joins us virtually. Good morning and thank you for joining us on the program today. Of course, it's a big week. It is a big week for all the parties and Nigerians, I might add. But yes, given the way things are turning out, we have heard from different quarters how the PDP is hugely optimistic that this time the pendulum will swing their way. Isn't that tantamount to perhaps underestimating the capability or capacity of the APC? Because at the moment, you know how they say in politics, 24 hours is a very long time. Is the PDP not counting their chicks now?
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Chamberlain. We are not overconfident. We are sure of the job we are doing. Thank you so much for having me this morning. I've been around Niger State for the past 2 weeks or thereabout, and we've been going from villages to villages, from different angles, from local government to local government with my governorship candidate. So what you see happening at the big rallies is also happening at the local environment. And because we know the amount of job that we have done, we know the amount of work that we have put into this, and we see the excitement on the faces of the people on the streets of this country, we see that Atiku Abubakar is actually bringing that hope. And because people have seen that hope, we are confident that we're going to win the election, not just win the election, but we're going to have a landslide victory in this election. The Nigerian people have tested the APC. They have seen what they have to offer. Look at the agony on the streets of Nigeria today. Look at the pain on the faces of the people, the mismanagement of the resources, the mismanagement of our diversity, a lot of things that the APC has gotten wrong. APC has taken Nigeria far back to where, you know, many of us were not born when the country was in this kind of mess. So I think it's clear that the Nigerian people have heard the clear voice of of hope, and so we're not counting our chips.
It appears that this might be a double-edged sword, as it were, because there's some who are of the impression that yes, it is the ruling party, the APC, their policy, but there are some others who also think the candidate of the APC at this moment is seen as an underdog because they're trying to dissociate him from this policy, saying it is not his policy. He's not the one who's responsible. So is PDP taking cognizance of this? Because this may, if not perhaps probably, if you underestimate it, may just work against what your party thinks will be an easy cruise to winning the elections? It looks like as if we have lost that connection, but we'll try and... Okay, okay. Well, we can still hear you. Just try and adjust that framing of the images there while we just get you back. But go ahead if you can hear me. Go ahead and respond to it.
I said the people are the ones who are going to cast their votes. It's about what the people are feeling on the street, and the people are not going to vote for YIAGA Bola Tinubu. The people are going to vote for the APC or the PDP. So it is not about whether YIAGA Bola Tinubu decide to dissociate himself from the party that he has so far, referred to as his brainchild. Bragging that he brought Buhari to power, Buhari cried for him and brought him. So I think at this point, it's already too late for APC and the YIAGA to dissociate themselves from whatever is happening today. And let me even say this. It is not just this Naira redesigning policy that has inflicted pain on the citizens of this country. There are so many things that the APC has done in the past that they have bastardized the nation. I think this redesigning of Naira and the messing up of the entire project is just the icing on the cake that shows clearly that the APC did not come with a prepared idea, plan to rescue the country. There was so much excitement when APC was coming. And unfortunately, Nigerian people, right from the beginning, in fact, every day people make reference to the fact that the last 7 years has been 20 years of agony.
If I could just bring in this perspective. Now, part of why people wonder if the PDP is not underestimating a number of things. Number one is that up north, the candidature of the NMPP is quite strong, they say. Kano, Jigawa, several other states, that will chip away from the votes that your candidate would ordinarily get in the bag, in the manner of speaking, to I stand corrected. And then the candidature of the Labour Party as well, chipping away at some of the stronghold of the PDP. So putting all of this in the mix, how is the PDP still confident that they will go ahead and press the tape?
Thank you, Chambali. I am a member of the National Strategy Team. I work directly with Dr. Don Pedro and Obaseki and a couple of other people. I am right here in Niger State. I understand what is going on in politics. This is a contest between the APC and the PDP. The two people you mentioned, we understand the frustration that they had, the experience in the political party. Some of us were candidates at some point, even in these political parties, but we did not run away. For a man who could not stand up to fight for the ticket of his party, what guarantee has such individual that is going to be able to confront the problems of this country?
If that's the point you're making, your principal too left the PDP and went to APC and back, so he's guilty of the same thing.
Like I said, Chamberlain, my principal went in search for a better Nigeria, and his movement around political parties has never been because of some of these little issues. We see what is happening is a man who wanted a better society, worked for the APC in 2015 and was hoping that they are going to lay the foundation for the Nigeria that we all want. But unfortunately, that did not happen. And because it did not happen, he contested against that same party in 2019. We're not saying we must stick to something that is not working. But I'm saying that when it comes to fighting for a better society, we must understand that sacrifice will be made at some point. Atiku Abubakar has made the sacrifice for Nigeria, for the political class, for the citizen of this country. And today, the love is getting on the streets of Nigeria. Believe you me, honestly, I am on ground at the local areas. I've been to Baro, I've been to Ebuntagi, I've been to Mokwa, I've been to different places, and I can tell you that the love I see on the street of Nigeria is unmatched by any political candidate.
Well,
so forget about the narrative that other people are trying to paint that because we have lost some individuals or some of these political gladiators. This election is going to be determined by the people on the street of Nigeria. And I have seen the love that the people have shown to Atiku Abubakar for the many years that he has contested for election. He has never gotten the amount of support, the amount of groundswell support he is getting, particularly from the north. So it is clear, and the northern people, but even our eastern brothers, they are not going to be gambling with their vote. I have called on the people of the middle belt as well that we cannot afford to gamble with our vote at the moment. We need to be able to consolidate.
What would you qualify, Mr. Sado, what would you qualify as gamble? Where are they? I mean, what are the odds that they're placing their bets on or placing their bets against, as the case might be?
See, Malpe, election, whether we like it or not, is about structures. I was talking to a young man yesterday in Lemu, the headquarters of Bako local government. When people came out en masse to embrace my governorship candidate, Alhaji Honorable Issa Liman Kantigi, under the hot sun, these guys stood there and they were just waiting to hear him. This is the structure. These are the structures that you see. When we go to people at go to villages at 2 a.m. in the night, and people are waiting to hear from us. People are waiting to see us. Those are the men and women that are going to come out and vote on the day of the election. Now, if you wake up one day and you do not have these structures on ground, and you think that because you have social media popularity, let me tell you one very interesting thing. Once I leave for the local environment, once I go to the streets in the villages, I do not remember that there are candidates like Labour Party candidates, because I do not see their effect. I do not feel anything on this street. The only people I see are the APC and the PDP. These are the structures that will determine who would win the election. So when you talk about gambling, we are making reference to the fact that a people would carry their vote to a candidate that has no hope of winning the election, that has no structure. Look, if you are looking at somebody like the candidate of the Labour Party, I think one would have been able to use as a metric to measure his impact at the moment is the penetration into the northern part of Nigeria. And you can see what is happening. The members, the people who are running on the platform of that political party are collapsing their structures to the bigger political parties. These are clear indications that shows to you that the contest is between the APC and the PDP. I was once a presidential candidate in 2019, and I know what it means when they said you do not have structure. I remember traveling to Enugu and arriving there hoping to get a lot of people to come around to welcome me, because I do not have a governorship candidate in that place. I do not have a senatorial candidate or member of House of Representatives. It was just like a student, maybe like a nurse, something. A few young people came together and we are saying, yes, you can win this election. But today I know better. And because of my experience in that, I have decided to join the mainstream political party, that within this mainstream political party, we should begin to have a say as a people so that we can together build a better society for ourselves.
Well, Mr. Sado, I'm going to have, I hope to have a conversation with you much later, on your experience in 2019. It will be very enlightening to see what it is, especially in the light of the campaigns, that it is important that we have room for independent candidates in our elections, because people have said that the obstacles placed in the front of genuine candidates can be quite steep and can be quite many. And that's why a lot of people are trying to see how it is that they can go it alone. But, for a number of people, they have said that these elections, for the front runners, they're going to be quite desperate. I do not know if you can attest to that for your candidate, the candidate of the PDP. How big a deal is this for him? It's his 6th time, throwing his hat in the ring. Some people think it's the last time that he's going to be doing it, and they think that it is now or never. The same thing for the candidate of the APC. I do not know whether there is any agreement between himself and the candidate of the APC, and maybe even other members of other political parties, that this exactly is not a do or die affair. If this is about the if this is about the success of Nigeria, that at some point you must be able to say that, maybe if I don't get it this time around, I will support whoever it is that finally emerges. What are your thoughts on that?
Mobe, the people on the streets of Nigeria are actually the ones that are desperately waiting for the emergence of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Matthias Babatado is desperately waiting for the emergence of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Many people, believe you me, I think Atiku Abubakar is doing us a favor by bringing his wealth of experience, by bringing his network, by bringing his ideas, by bringing his experience both in the political sector and in the business sector, and wanting to give us a Nigeria that will be that Nigeria that Nelson Mandela referred to as the hope of the black race. That is the kind of, I think I've never seen a situation whereby Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is so relaxed, in a contest. I've not seen where a man who is running for election is also unperturbed by what is happening. It is we, the people, those of us down the ladder, that are desperately working, and we are not resting, we are not sleeping, we are going from door to door, we are going from street to street to tell the people that, yes, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is the hope for the better Nigeria that we are looking for.
What would you say to this school of thought that believes that for those parties you refer to as mainstream parties, their strategy, their strength on election day is largely voter inducement, because they've been in levels of power, so they have access to those kind of resources, so they leverage on that, induce voters and get votes. But for these other parties, for instance, maybe the NMPP and, say, Labour Party, that school of thought believes that their kind of campaign and support is more or less organic. And so on election day, the dynamics will favor those parties as opposed to these other parties who will be desperate and scrambling to induce voters to get votes.
Chamberlain, was I induced to support Atiku Abubakar? I decided to support Alhaji Atiku Abubakar because I am convinced that he has the right knowledge, the right experience, the team. I've seen the number of people who are working with him. A leader is primarily judged by the caliber of people you see around him. So it is not so much about whether there will be voter inducement.
I'm talking about election day dynamic, that these are the things that we will see happen on election day. They're scrambling to induce voters.
That's where I'm going to. I said I was not induced to support him. I believe millions of Nigerians who are going to support him, who are going to vote for him, do not need to be induced. Many are convinced that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is the right candidate for the job. So because they are convinced that he's the right candidate for the job, they do not need to be induced. Look, let me tell you, a lot of people have this misconception about the PDP particularly. I have been part of the team that are going around this country to canvass for vote. We have been reaching out to people, and believe me, honestly, I have not even had any cause to say we are giving people money to bring them out to come and attend our rallies. There are mobilization in such a way, like maybe you pay for the transportation and feeding, but that you give people money to say, come out to come and stand here for a candidate. It's not true. So people just have that misconception. And on the day of the election, I believe the same thing, that people on their own, out of their love for this country and out of their confidence for Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, because of his beautiful 5-point agenda, uniting this country and creating wealth for the citizens of this country, people are going to come out to vote for him without any form of inducement. That is my own conviction. I am working passionately for this because I believe in a better society, and I believe that the person that
even in Niger State, I mean, we've heard lots of APC say, look, APC is the ruling party in Niger State. PDP is playing, they're the opposition. How do they expect that, having been in the saddle for this number of years, 8 years for the APC, and PDP thinks it's a stroll in the park, that they will definitely deliver Niger State, where you are, to the APC?
Well, let's see how that works. I can tell you, Chamberlain, that the APC is so frustrated in Niger State that everywhere their governorship candidate goes, the people chase them out. The people scream, Bama so, Bama ye. And sometimes the governorship candidate gets frustrated to the extent.
All right, we seem to have lost that connection, but well, the point is trying to make about their candidates. I mean, I don't know any candidates who will come forward and say that his candidate is not getting a lot of momentum. Okay, I think we'll do have him back. Okay, just go ahead and conclude your thoughts on that one.
We're not just here talking about what we are, our imaginations. We are here making reference.
Okay, I think that the connection looks as though it's not coming through this time with Mr. Fatai Asado of the PDP, trying to give us the scenario of what may play out in Niger State. Mr. Asado, I'm not sure we do have you back, but gentlemen, guys, do we have him back so we can just let him conclude his thoughts at the moment? Okay, well, we'll have to thank you. At least you got your point in. As a matter of fact, a lot of them. Mr. Fatai Asado is the Director of Research and Strategy for Niger State's PDP Presidential Campaign Management Committee. They are all buoyant into moving into this big weekend, all the political parties. And I hope you are too as a voter, because this is largely about you. We will be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Nigerians are losing hope in the country. I mean, we've just come from doing retreats from across the country. We've been to the entire 6 geopolitical region. And what I would say, talking to young people across the entire country, what stands out is the fact that there is hopelessness in the land. And if we have someone running for president, the very least you can do is inspire. You want to govern in Nigeria, right? The very least you can do right now is inspire hope. You've put your manifesto in a document. The very least you can do is come to the people and address it and inspire that hope of a new Nigeria. What you're trying to realize, you're trying to govern people like Rino said, very spot on. What does it take to talk to a room of 200 people if you want to govern a country of over 200 million? So the very least you can do is inspire hope. For me, I think hope is important, that you believe that this country can work and you're able to articulate the house. Yeah. You know, how do you want to take us there? How do you want to address the security situation? How do you want to address the problem of unemployment? We want to hear from you. We want to see in your eyes that you actually believe in what you're saying and, you know, put that investment or that stake in you looking forward to the next 4 years. So, and if you're not able to talk to us now that you even need us to cast your vote, how much more are we expecting that you're going to talk to us? It's still that same frugal lordship system that is still being driven. I think there's something in our psyche as a people, even the people to have a responsibility. If these candidates are supposed to be the leading candidates, in an ideal situation, for you not to be attending debate is supposed to make you person on grant as far as election day is concerned. So the politicians have realized what the mistake they are making now is that there is a growing crop, there is a group of Nigerians that are now taking things very seriously, who are going to vote based on merit. Nobody ever saw a Peter Obi coming, a candidacy at that coming and generating that kind of currency that he has. I'm not endorsing his candidacy, but he's telling a story. And if the establishment politicians don't see that as something right now to take seriously, then I think that there's something in it for there's something, you know, there are some surprises that they have coming up.
stretch now, and as you've seen there, Samson Itodo joins us next, Executive Director for YIAGA. Thank you for coming on today.
Always a delight.
It is the big week, as we've been saying all morning, and looking forward to that Friday. And I know on election day...
Friday or Saturday?
Saturday, as a matter of fact. But Friday is the day that a lot of people perhaps just say, okay, I'm done. I've decided. This is the final for me. So several people will be in that category. So yeah, to that extent. But election day itself, it comes with a different dynamic, different pressure, all sorts of things. You could even you could have voted 2-3 times and still make a mistake on that day concerning your ballot paper. And that's what we're talking about this morning in terms of how those scenarios should play out. How do we ensure that when we get in there, if we do thumbprint, we do it right?
Yeah, I think it's important because for several elections, we've seen rejected ballots. And once a ballot is rejected, it will not count amongst the number of votes that will count on the day of election. So it's important for everyone who is going to vote on Saturday to thumbprint properly on the ballot paper that will be issued to them. For Saturday's election, voters will have 3 ballot papers, one for the presidential, second for senatorial, and then the third one for the House of Reps. And it's important that you thumbprint correctly, because if you don't, that ballot will be rejected. And there are sort of 5 reasons why a ballot paper will be rejected, and we will talk about, those reasons. And the essence is for everyone who is going to vote to be mindful so your ballot will not be rejected. And the first major reason why a ballot paper will be rejected is if the choice you made on the ballot paper is not clear. So if you don't thumbprint correctly on the ballot paper, perhaps if you thumbprint and then the ink smears into another box. So the structure of the ballot paper is such that you have the logo of a party as well as a box right in front of the logo of a party. And that's the box where you're required to thumbprint. Now, if you look at exactly, so this is the first reason why a ballot paper will be rejected. So if your choice is not clear, if you look at the sample of the ballot paper, by the way, these are just sample ballot papers. This is not how the ballot paper will look on Saturday. There are 18 political parties, so we expect to see 18 logos in elections where there are 18 parties who presented candidates. Because for some legislative elections, the ballot papers may be shorter if all the parties didn't present candidates. So if you look at this particular hypothetical situation.
Exactly, and these are fictitious parties.
Yes, these are fictitious parties.
One could be tempted to say, look at that one, the last one there. There's cash policy. Who is this guy? This guy has what I need. So
I'm glad that you underscored.
Immediately.
I'm glad that you underscored that. But if you look at how on sample ballot A, this person thumbprinted on the line, and it falls in between the boxes of 2 parties. In this case, if it happens this way, this ballot paper will be rejected.
What if it's just a little bit on that black one?
If it is not clear, and I'm sure we will show voters what are samples of ballot papers that are rightly or correctly thumbprinted. So this is one reason why a ballot paper will be rejected, and we hope that voters will not make this mistake on election day. Now, the second reason why a ballot will be rejected on election day is one where a ballot paper does not have any thumbprint. Now, let's before we go to that one, let's look at this one. In this particular ballot paper, the ballot paper is not signed, is not stamped, and it's not dated. So on election day, before the presiding officer issues you a ballot paper, the presiding officer is required to authenticate the ballot paper by doing 3 things. 1, you stamp behind the ballot paper, sign on the ballot paper, and date, and insert the date. And in this case, it will be 25th of February 2023.
What if the date reads 2019?
Exactly, and that becomes an issue. But it has to be 2023 because it might raise issues in the post-election era. So the second reason, the ballot paper must be signed, it must be stamped, and it must be dated. If you look at this sample, there's no stamp, there's no sign, and there's no date. So please, on election day, ensure that the ballot paper issued to you has this major or three features. So this is one reason. Any ballot paper without these three will be rejected on election day. And the third one is a situation where the ballot paper has no thumbprint. This is a classic example, and we've seen this in election. They issue you 3 ballot papers. Maybe some people just want to vote for just the president or even senatorial or the House of Reps. If you thumbprint on just one, the other 2 will be regarded as rejected ballots because there's no mark, there's no thumbprint to indicate that this particular voter who was issued this ballot paper wanted to vote or wanted to express a choice or opinion in the election. So this is the third reason. And then let's go to the fourth reason why a ballot paper will be rejected. Where a ballot paper contains the name of a voter or anyone, and that ballot paper exposes the identity of the voter. Because Maupai and Chamberlain, the secrecy of the ballot is central to the sanctity of elections. So when you make your choice, ensure you do not make any mark or any sign or inscription on the ballot paper that could be linked to your identity. So if you write your name on the ballot paper, that ballot paper will be rejected because it's in violation of not just the Electoral Act, but also the INEC guidelines. And so
So no graffiti on your ballot paper. I mean, for those people who think, I want them to know I was here. I printed before.
For vote buying.
If you do that, that ballot paper will be rejected.
Okay.
And we want to reduce incidence of rejected ballots. Because in some cases, in some elections, you see as high as 2 or 3 million rejected ballot papers. And that's enough, to swing the outcome of the election. And so the fifth reason why a ballot paper will be rejected is one where a voter casts his vote or her vote for more than one party. So this is a classic example.
So what if somebody says, well, I wanted to vote for this, but mistakenly, I did this?
No, that will lead to rejection of the ballot paper.
So you need to think clearly.
So because it's one man, one vote, and one vote for one particular
political party. This is 1 man, 2 votes.
So this is one, this is 1 man, 2 votes. So please do not thumbprint twice on your ballot paper, because if you do, the ballot paper will be rejected. And so these are examples or cases where ballot papers will be rejected. Whether you make the thumbprint on the box provided or on the logo of the party, it will be rejected.
So let me get this straight, because I've seen you use this example quite a number of times. Assuming a person were to thumbprint not on the box provided, but on the logo of the party, and the person thumbprints just once.
Yes.
That is fine?
No, that's fine, because it's clear that you're thumbprinting for that particular political party.
That even though there's a whole obvious box beside it where you're supposed to thumbprint?
Yeah, because the choice, what is central to this is the clarity of choice.
Okay.
If the choice of a voter is clear, then that ballot paper will be admitted. But
so what if he does it on that logo and beside, in the box, the empty box?
If it's on the same
line.
Yeah, I think it's fine, because what happens is it is clear that this particular voter is voting for that particular political party. Where the choice is not clear, there will be a lot of disputes, and so to prevent that, the ballot paper will be rejected. However, there are cases where you have spoiled ballots, and spoiled ballots are situations where sometimes, either due to accident or due to malhandling of the ballot paper before a voter casts their vote, either the ballot paper gets torn or just there could be any reason. The voter is required to report the issue to the presiding officer. And if the presiding officer, considers the ballot paper as spoiled, in any case, this ballot paper cannot be used for voting as a result of either one or two issues, that particular presiding officer will retrieve that spoiled ballot and then put them in an envelope and then issue a new ballot paper to the voter, to cast their vote.
What about, can it happen if someone thumbprints, folds the ballot, and it imprints on another spot?
If that makes it into the ballot box, that particular ballot paper will be rejected.
Oh dear.
So you have given instances where, the presiding officer rejects a ballot paper, excuse me, perhaps in the process of sorting, preceding counting. But are there instances where voters themselves, excuse me, should reject or can reject ballot papers?
Well, there are cases where voters can reject ballot papers. And the first instance is if, one, you're issued more than the required number of ballot papers. So you should reject. So in this case, for Saturday's election, every voter is entitled to 3 ballot papers. If you're issued more than 3, you should reject. The second election, which is March 11th, in 28 states, voters will be issued 2 ballot papers. And that's states where you have governorship elections. And the other states, they will be issued 1 ballot paper for the state assembly elections. And in the FCT, there won't be any election. So that's one instance. The second instance, if a presiding officer or an INEC official issues you a ballot paper, and that ballot paper does not have a stamp, and there's no signature, and there's no date, you can reject the ballot paper or ask the presiding officer to fulfill the conditions as stated in the rules and regulations for the election. So that's the second one. The third one, there may be cases, and we don't anticipate that this happens, but there may be cases where a ballot paper may not contain the logo of a particular political party. This is a worst case scenario, but it is possible, because sometimes as a result of logistics deployment, there may be some mix-up. In those instances, the voters in that place can actually reject it because the party of their choice is not on the ballot.
Yeah,
and several things can happen.
Yeah, we've seen that sort of case before where political parties sued INEC for non-inclusion of their logo on ballot papers.
But the Electoral Act, why I say it is a worst case scenario, the Electoral Act compels INEC to invite political parties 20 days before the date of an election, and then issue or display the sample of election materials like the ballot paper and the result sheets for the parties to verify their logos or their names on those materials. And where a party has been invited to come verify its logo and its insignia on materials and it declines, they waive their right to contest situations where they are excluded. So it won't be a ground, for exclusion within in a post-election or pre-election dispute.
What if there's a scenario where one of these reasons to reject a ballot paper happens and the presiding officer refuses to give the voter another ballot paper?
Well, again, there's a lot of discretion, and the powers that the presiding officers have. And party agents, who are right there at the polling unit also have a duty, to be vigilant and also contest that, because these are provisions in INEC's guidelines. I see no reason why a presiding officer would intentionally deprive or deny a voter, their right. And also note in those communities, and we encourage people to note that, one, there will be INEC supervisors and there will be INEC monitors. And when they show up at your polling unit, please draw their attention, to this particular issue. Secondly, there would also be their helplines and INEC Citizens Contact Center. There will also be observers at your polling unit. That would also help when you report those cases, it can be escalated and then an action can be taken. And I know that there are helplines, published, for citizens to report those cases. But the presiding officers should be aware of what the guidelines, what the training manual says, and what the Electoral Act says. And I want to believe is the basis of some of the trainings that they are undergoing in preparations for the elections. But then there are two key things that will determine, this election on Saturday and on March, is the personal integrity of all those who are saddled with the responsibility to administer this election. And secondly, the vigilance of citizens. And this is our call to citizens when they show up at the polling unit on Saturday, to shine their eyes and ensure that there's compliance with all the procedures, because that's the only way they're going to make their votes count, and to do so in a civil and non-violent manner. Because when you take to violence, the implication is your votes may not count, because the election might be cancelled for that polling unit, and then your preferred candidate may not win that particular polling unit.
As a matter of fact, for those whose mannerism may be a bit loud, let me just read this to underscore what he just said. It's section 125, which says, any person who at an election acts or incites others to act in a disorderly manner commits an offence and is liable to, on conviction, to a maximum fine of 500,000 naira or imprisonment for a term of 12 months or both. Now, you don't want to, because of you voting, be liable here. So it is going to be hugely important, as you say, how people conduct themselves. So if it comes through where a scenario, for instance, the presiding officer doesn't see any reason why I should change your ballot paper because there's something there, and then the party agents disagree, you can call the attention of an INEC official or observer who can ensure that the right things are done at that point in time to ensure that people vote.
That's right.
But on election day scenario as well, when they get out there, what kind of environment or circumstances should they expect? Because there are people who will be somewhat apprehensive to go out there, because there are many who will be going to vote for the first time this time around.
Well, when you go out, to vote on Saturday, the accreditation and voting is expected to start at 8:30. We encourage voters to show up early, and early will be from 8 o'clock. But before then, the presiding officers, the officials, are expected to arrive the polling unit between 7 and 7:30. But before accreditation and voting starts at 8:30, the presiding officer will announce that the polling unit is open and they are set, for the commencement of the proceedings for the day. The second, they will go through the procedure of accreditation and voting and what will happen that entire day. Please listen carefully to what the presiding officer says, so you follow the instructions. And then voters are going to stand in queues. So there will be separate queues for men and women where the community decides where you have those cultural sensitivities. There would also be a separate queue for persons living with disability, as well as the elderly. And so please be orderly in the queues, and everyone is going to cast their vote. But you must show up with your PVC, because no PVC, no accreditation, no accreditation, no voting. But when we talk about no accreditation, it's no accreditation with BVAS, no voting. There won't be manual accreditation, so it's electronic accreditation. So please insist to be accredited with the BVAS. Once you've been accredited, you'll be issued the ballot paper. As we said, the ballot paper must contain a stamp, the signature, and the date of the presiding officer. Before issuing you the ballot paper, the presiding officer will pre-fold the ballot paper. I hope that before the elections, we can come talk about how to fold your ballot. How to fold your ballot paper. But the ballot paper will be pre-folded and issued to you. Take the ballot paper into the voting cubicle, cast your vote in secret, but before you come out, fold the ballot paper in the manner, it was issued to you before you entered the voting cubicle. Take note of all we have said, the 5 reasons why ballot papers could be rejected. Come out of the cubicle or voting booth and then insert the ballot paper in the ballot box and then step aside for other voters to do the same. After the election, and the election will end at 2:30 p.m. on Saturday. But if there are still people on the queue at 2:30, the last person on the queue will have to cast their votes before voting comes to an end. It doesn't mean that if you still have people on the queue by 2:30, then elections would have concluded. That's not the case.
All right. So, we do thank you for coming on. Samson Itodo, Executive Director of YIAGA. But here's the thing now, so we just go ahead and to read your comments. Why don't you just try this? Send us an email. For more, we've been talking about what to do, how to conduct yourself. Tell us, what do you remember? What did we talk about last week? Let's see if so many people are conscious of all of those. But we have this first email from Bello. He's talking about El-Rufai. He says El-Rufai is in order. Okay, no, I'll go again on this one. He says El-Rufai is in order. Nigeria is a federal system. In a federal system of government, the president does not have the legal right to enforce decisions on states. The president does not have the right to disobey the Supreme Court. All states in Nigeria have the legal backing of the Supreme Court to suspend Naira redesign exercise in their respective states, he says.
Well, that's the feedback. Femi Alex is saying currency redesign. Do the governors really feel the pains of the people? There is no better time than now for the currency redesign because I believe this will soon pass.
Well, take a look at this tweet from Benjamin saying, we have certainly gone far into the issue of old and new currencies. We just have to ask CBN to supply more of the new currencies so that many people don't have old notes anymore, having lodged them in banks.
And Oluwaseun says the president, as the commander-in-chief, should have a frank talk, either physically or virtually, with all top 2023 presidential candidates on the need to keep Nigeria as one after the elections. We can always have a democratically elected president every 4 years.
All right, so there you go. That is it today on the 2023 verdict. We do thank you for your time and for your messages as well. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Oso. Have a good day.
I'm Malpel Yusuf. Goodbye.
Well, I'm Kayode Okikelu. Have a fantastic day ahead.
And let there be peace. I'm Aya Makinde. Have a wonderful day.